Welcome back, everyone, to the next installment of Chaos Child. It's Friday. People are talking in riddles. Maybe. What are we going to do? A little after 4 p.m. 7 hours had passed since the beginning of the festivities, and even as the sun began to set, they showed no signs of slowing down. Lines had started forming in front of every food stand and restaurant around lunchtime, and they were all still packed. There were over 30 wow, concerts, from huge 1,000-seat venues with major artists to tiny little bars with only a dozen or seats. What? A dozen or seats? A dozen or so seats? Each one was standing room only. Guerrilla performance artists would approach the crowds hoping to attract customers and in turn attract crowds of their own. Over 80,000 people were still in attendance at the festival, which had gone far beyond the organizers' wildest expectations. There were the usual issues associated with big events, like minor fights and lost children, but there had been no major problems so far. The police from the Shibuya station helped keep things safe, but the biggest factor was the volunteer staff. The organizers had been recruiting volunteers up to the last minute to handle the crowds, keeping everyone safe and in a mood to spend money. Many of the volunteers were victims of the original disaster, and the experience they'd gained in the earthquake had taught them how to get along and work with other people. When a major band had made a surprise appearance at the stage in front of the 107, there was a mild panic, but the volunteers formed a human wall to keep people in the crowd safe. That's what the leader of the volunteers had said to an interviewer who'd happened to be at the scene. He was an honest and sincere man. He was speaking from the heart, and he didn't mean anything more than what he'd said. But his words brought to mind a certain name and a certain face, both among the people who saw him on TV and among those who heard him directly. The word that had made them think of that name was, of course, death. Everyone there was hoping for the festival to succeed. But at the same time, they hadn't caused a big problem yet, but there was one big concern on everyone's minds. When a girl and her boyfriend left Shibuya Station, heading for the stage at the cultural hall, they saw a group of people wearing eerie masks. Oh, are we finally coming back to this? It's been forever! There were over a dozen of them, and then another group came from another direction. Suddenly there were several dozen. Identical masks, identical t-shirts. Oh, now they're getting identical shirts as well. I know there's been kind of branding, but it's the masks. That was... man, that was early. That was before Part 20. The faces of two fat men overlapping. It was... ugh. The sumo stickers. They said nothing. But anyone who got close, whether by accident or because they wanted to get a picture, would flinch away as they heard the eerie sound created as the sumos breathed beneath their masks. The man at the head of the group looked around and then approached a nearby streetlight. That is eerie. Then he took something out of his pocket and stuck it on the light. It was a sumo sticker. The owner of a nearby crepe stall saw this and frowned, but was too scared by their appearance to say anything. He quickly went back to dealing with his customer. It was something he'd seen again and again since the festival started. The only ones who saw it were people like him who stood in one place the whole day as they ran their businesses. The majority of attendees, caught up in the flowing crowds, saw nothing. But if you were to take all the stickers placed on the ground, on the decorations, on the streetlights, on the walls, you'd have enough to cover the huge TVs at Shibuya Scramble Crossing. The stickers were slowly taking over, spreading even to places where no one could see them. They were like a physical manifestation of all negative emotions that lurked within the attendees. It was about 3 hours later, around 7:30 p.m. What? What? When they finally exploded? Is this literally true? It happened at the place that had been set up for the silent prayer that would end the festival. Right in front of the memorial. Okay. So the crowd exploded. I thought they meant the stickers were somehow bombs. I'm like, what?
Miyashiro です。Miyashiro 拓が慰霊碑前に姿を現しました。
But how? Oh boy, a little after 9 p.m., Serika arrived at the Hikariwo. Most of the attendees had gone elsewhere, and it wasn't as busy as it had been earlier in the day. She looked around and listened to the thoughts of the passers-by.
Miyashiro うぜえ。あいつ本当にどっかで死ぬのかよ。逃げ出したんじゃねえの?
You have fun hearing this kind of thing from everybody? That's gonna drive somebody insane.
早くしてよね。死ぬにしても死なないにしてもこのままじゃ帰れないじゃん。どっちでもいいからさ。情弱が。
What? Does she think that way? I mean, even if she is a Miyashiro creation, that's really odd coming out of Serika. Serika whispered as she listened to the worthless thoughts around her. The couple a few feet away glanced over at her, but quickly turned away. Serika closed her eyes so she could concentrate only on the thoughts around her. As of 9 p.m., all the concerts and street performances, as well as a few of the stalls, were closing up. The festival was nearing its end. After this, the attendees would gather at the specified time for a moment of silent prayer, and then the festival would be over. We have, what, slightly over an hour? The crowd seemed to be heading toward the station and the memorial. There were too many people still here for them to all fit in the memorial plaza, so the big VIPs, as well as the families of the victims of the quake, would gather at the memorial itself, while everyone else would watch the proceedings on the TVs in front of the station.
佐久間は多分、宮代を殺した後、慰霊碑前に遺体を晒すつもりだな。
Both the TVs in front of the station and the memorial park were near the Hikariwo, but the park was just a little closer, and anything that happened at the park would be replayed for people watching on TV. In other words, more people would see it.
おそらくさっきの男も、そのための道具。
Several hours ago, she'd heard that Miyashiro had appeared in front of the memorial, but she'd quickly learned the report was mistaken. Yeah, okay. I was wondering if it was some kind of person dressed up as him, or a straight-up illusion by some psychic or whatever. It was a fake, a man pretending to be Miyashiro, who worshipped him as a messiah, but the man himself had looked nothing like Miyashiro. Yet for some reason, the media had decided to report it as Takuro Miyashiro himself appearing at the memorial. As a result, security around the park and plaza had been strengthened. And as a result of that, another rumor was spreading, this time that Miyashiro would be appearing there. It was almost certainly part of Sakuma's plot. Serika opened her eyes and rubbed her stomach as if to check on her injury. As if? It had been almost 24 hours since Sakuma had sliced open her stomach. She still wasn't in top shape. She had lost a lot of blood. And the dull pain in her head that resulted from resisting Sakuma's powers, okay, she is under a degree of mind control, would come back the second she let her guard down. This had been the result of her attacking him in top form last night. Ugh. She'd survived working with the committee this long, so she couldn't shake her logical and very realistic doubts. Could she really kill Sakuma?
Miyashiro Takuru. Miyashiro Takuru.
A thought suddenly came into her mind, and she frowned suspiciously. That was strange. She hadn't been trying to read anyone's mind. It was from somewhere in her field of vision.
出てこい。楽しませてくれ。死ね。死ね死ね。かっこよく死ね。
Are these the masked people? Negative thoughts flowed into her mind one after another. They were strong and vast in number. It was as if someone had combined all the final thoughts of all the people she'd killed. She forced herself to look in the direction of the thoughts and saw the group wearing the sumo sticker masks. She tried to squeeze them out of her mind, but they slipped past her and echoed in her head once more. I wonder if they can force their thoughts, but all of them?
Miyashiro Takuru, Miyashiro Takuru.
出てこい、楽しませてくれ。
I heard you guys the first time.
死ね、死ね死ね、かっこよく死ね。
Only strong thoughts and desires could create this effect. It was as if all these feelings had formed into one single strong emotion, a desire for Takuro Miyashiro to appear. For the first time in a very, very long time, Sarika was terrified. She could feel herself break out into a cold sweat. Her logical and realistic doubts vanished. It didn't matter if she was capable of killing him or not. She had to kill him. Miyashiro had to survive. And for that, Sakuma had to die, and soon.
そろそろか。
She looked at her phone and saw that it was past 9:30 p.m. Everyone inside the theater had probably been let out. Shibuya, the Hikariwa building, the 11th floor. The entrance to the theater cube. This room was also the entrance to the office floor, and it was always crowded with people. But now there was no one here save a lone employee and single security guard. The festival event in the theater had finished up at 9, and there were no other plans to use it.
似合わないな。
I like that it's QUB, Theater Cube. The whole floor was lit up, giving its classy design an elegant atmosphere. It didn't at all match what was about to happen inside the theater, because by the time this was over, one of them would be dead on the floor. Sarika stood in front of the convenience store on the floor and waited for the time to come. There was no sign of Sakuma, but then, a little after 10 p.m., she realized something was wrong.
Oh.
The employees and security guard at the front desk suddenly started to leave. They dropped what they were carrying and began to stagger out. Oh boy! As if they weren't thinking about anything. Her eyes went wide and she immediately tried to read their minds. She felt a sharp pain in her head when she did. They really weren't thinking about anything. There wasn't even the meaningless subconscious noise that all humans produced. Nobody was ever like this. Nobody normal, that is.
思考誘導。
The two of them walked to the escalator as if they were in a daze and then disappeared. All that was left was empty silence.
まったく、準備のいいことだ。
Another violent pain struck her. This didn't make sense. They'd already vanished. There was no reason why she should be hearing their thoughts. Where was this heavy strain coming from?
なんだ。
She felt something very strange in her mind and body. And then she saw her left hand slowly begin to move without her controlling it. Oh, was it like a command to kill herself at the time or something? Oof. And we're cutting away? This sucks.
準備はできたか?
This is very uncomfortable.
ああ、全員いつでも行ける。
Shinjo was out of breath. He'd run back to Aoba dorm to take the place of the other officer, who I hadn't seen because I was in Uki's room. I could tell he'd been literally running around all day.
よし、今から数時間ここにいるのは俺だけだ。外にいたマスコミ連中にも偽の情報をつかませておいた。今なら誰もいない。車でここを出られる。
宮代や有村はともかく、後で交代した時、山添や橘優斗がいなくなっていることをどう説明するつもりだ?
You know, something just occurred to me. When we get the sudden sharp pain in our head, Sarika was doing it because of resisting mind control. Takara's had it a couple times really early in the game. Are we also subject to mind control? Like, are we going into Sakuma's trap because we're subconsciously going to be just doing something that he wants? That was a good question. There was no way to hide that, and it would be his fault if they went missing.
フェリックスならお前や百瀬さんと話している間に鍛えられたよ。心配ない。
別にあんたの心配をしてるわけじゃない。あんたにはこの後もいろいろ動いてもらうことになるんだ。降格ならまだしも失職されては私が困るんだよ。
ほら、これだから鍛えられるんだ。
Shinjo sighed. Then Uki came in with Yuto at her side and a worried look on her face. She slowly raised her hand. The other hand was clutching Yuto's... tight? Oh, clutching Yuto's hands tight. Got it. I was like, his tight what? No, she was clutching Yuto's hand. Tightly. That makes a big difference. Otherwise, this is a very confusing sentence. Yuto's eyes were still red, and he wasn't looking good. Uki seemed to be trying to hold him up. What?
秋葉ってあの秋葉原ですか?
Oh.
I like that. Apparently he said Akiba, and he was like, Akiba? Like Akihabara? Yes. I'd been sure we'd go somewhere less densely populated.
もっと遠くかと思ってました。
秋葉には久野里さんの協力者がいる。
Shinjo looked at her. Someone helping her?
PC を使った情報収集という点においては私以上の腕を持つハッカーだ。ふざけた人物だがある程度の事情も知っている。しばらくの間かくまってくれるそうだ。
For some reason, Kunosato furrowed her brow and frowned.
それなりのマシンも融通してもらえることになっている。まあ交換条件で何を言われるか分かったもんじゃないな。
ん?
Shinjo seemed confused. Evidently he hadn't met this helper of hers.
とにかくここからどれだけ離れるかは問題じゃない。渋谷という街を出ることが先決だ。一旦そこに留まって様子を見る。
ということだ。有村さんはどうした？
あ、ノノの部屋で電話してます。
そうか。
Arimura had said she was calling her family before she left. But when she'd taken her phone into Nono's room, she hadn't looked like a girl who was saying goodbye to her family. It had always felt like Arimura didn't want to talk about her family, and I hadn't brought the subject up. So I had a vague sense that they weren't on good terms, but I didn't know anything else.
よし、有村さんの電話が終わったら行こう。車は玄関に寄せてある。マスコミはしばらく大丈夫だと思うが、乗るときは一応用心してくれ。近所の目もある。
ゆうとも連れて行きますから。
Suddenly Yuki spoke up. She must have been nervous because she clutched his hand even tighter. She was acting a little strange, but it was also cute to see how much she cared. I couldn't help but smile. I looked at Shinjo and saw that his expression was much the same as mine.
もちろん、最初からそのつもりだよ。いいかな、ゆうとくん。
Yuto nodded. And then he looked at me.
タクル兄ちゃん。お父さんはどこにいるの？大丈夫なの？
Suddenly I didn't know what to say. Yuto didn't know anything about what was going on. Nor did Uki, who was also looking at me and expecting an answer. It hurt to see how worried they looked. All I could do was tell myself that I couldn't make it any better.
後で話すよ。
後っていつ？
秋葉原について落ち着いたら必ず。
I could tell Yuto was struggling with his feelings. Now it was his turn to grasp Uki's hand tightly.
わかった。絶対だよ。
あ、ほら、荷物取ってきな。
The two of them must have felt the exact same way as they went to their rooms, still holding each other's hands. Shinjo looked at me with a pained expression.
大丈夫です。
Of course, that was a lie, but Shinjo was nice enough not to say anything.
新庄さん、一つ確認したいことがある。
Kunosato stared at the hallway where Uki and Yuto had just left as she spoke. I could tell from the way she was acting that it had something to do with Dad.
2時間半くらい前か。慰霊碑公園に宮代拓の名を語った狂言者が出ただろう。
ああ。
I'd remembered the news I'd just seen on my tablet. The TV news and Twitter had all been talking about how I'd appeared at the memorial park. But of course that was a lie. I was right here.
厳重注意くらいで。明日には釈放か。
その予定だが。
そいつには悪いが。別件でも何でも構わない。数日間、交流しておいてくれないか。
Shinjo seemed to know what he was getting at. Or, you know, what she was getting at. He looked out the hallway too.
佐久間の仕掛けだと。
She nodded.
タイミング的には狂言者なんていくら湧いてもおかしくないが、仮にも宮代拓になりきろうとした人間だ。何の工夫もなく名前だけを語ったのが気になってな。宮代との違いなんて遠目からでも一発でわかるはずだろ。
Yeah, that is bizarre. It's true that he wasn't a Chaos Child Syndrome patient, Shinjo said. That was confusing. When I'd seen the man on my tablet, his height and age had been mostly the same as mine. From a distance, it would have been hard to tell us apart. And what did Chaos Child Syndrome have to do with it, when that was just a type of PTSD?
できれば、そいつのここを調べてみたい。
Kunosato tapped at her temples.
わかった。なんとかしてみよう。
It was also strange to see how easily Shinjo agreed to keep an innocent man locked up. Yeah, I guess. I wonder how deep we're in this?
そろそろ出発しよう。有村さんにもそう伝えてくれ。
He pointed to the clock before I could ask any questions. It was 10 p.m.
はい。荷物はもうまとめてありますから。あれ
I opened the door to Nono's room to tell Aramura it was time to go, but there was no one there. The lights were off too, of course. Was she done talking on the phone? Which would mean that she was having Kazuki get the last of their things together, so she'd be in the dining room or maybe Yuki's room. Come to think of it...
結局、Kazukiを最後まで付き合わせちゃったな。
Kazuki wasn't involved in this case directly, but she was helping a lot just because she was a member of the newspaper club. Still, I couldn't ask her to come with us. While we'd been waiting for Shinjo, she'd tried to tell us that she'd come too, of course using only a series of mumbles and gestures like always. But I'd refused, though I was grateful from the bottom of my heart. She seemed unsatisfied, but I'd finally gotten her to agree to it by promising to keep in touch and to come straight to her if we needed help. I couldn't cause any more trouble for someone who wasn't part of the case.
当事者か。
I was suddenly conscious of the smells in Nono's room. Without bothering to turn on the lights, I shut the door behind me and walked over to her desk. I ran my hand along it, and only then did I realize it was the first time I'd been in here since her death. That's right. Nono wasn't supposed to be a part of the case.
なんでだ？ジョーちゃんは幸せにならなきゃいけねえ子だろうがよ。
I knew that. He was right. She wasn't supposed to die. There was no reason she deserved to die. She was simply killed because she'd learned Serika's secret. That is true, but I think Miyashiro is unaware that she's a psychic. What her power was, who the hell knows? What was her real goal? And again, that's something to consider. Her timing was aligned with the last New Generation Madness thing, and I guess we never put together that it's been psychics. I mean, like, we did put that together, but we figured she was taken down because she figured things out, but she is also a psychic. I remembered... Oh yeah, what was her real goal? I remembered what Kunosato had asked me this afternoon. What was she really after? I almost screamed as I heard a loud noise from inside my bag. It was the sound of my phone vibrating. I quickly flipped over the bag and spilled its contents onto the floor. I picked the phone up off the floor and read the words "unlisted caller" in the darkness. Oh goody, can't wait. That was kinda creepy. I did not have a good feeling about this. Afraid, I touched the answer button.
誰だ?
Just wrong number. It's just nothing.
一つ言い忘れたことがあってな。
Oh?
お前
I moved the phone away from my ear in surprise. It was Serica, there was no mistaking it. I checked the time on the phone without even thinking about it. 10:03 p.m.
話を聞け。すぐに終わる。
なんでお前
I realized how hard my heart was beating, and I put the phone back up to my ear.
そんなことはどうでも。
I heard a sudden abrupt noise. Had she dropped her phone, or had something happened? I listened carefully so as not to miss a single sound. My hands were trembling violently. I hated it. And after I waited a moment...
Miyashiro, 聞いているか?
Her voice was somehow weak and feeble. Huh? Something was off about the way she was acting.
聞いてるなんだよ
一つ言い忘れたことがあってな。
Oh my god, spit it out. It was the same thing she just said.
おいどうしたんだなんか
お前の両親を殺したのは私だ。
Okay. Alright. So... We did say Serica saved me, but we also said we wanted our parents to go away. I must admit, this is confusing. Because somewhere in the back of my mind, and I don't know how the hell it was supposed to make sense, but Kurosu had said that she had a dark secret and we would despise her if we found out what it was. But, like, I was wondering, like, well, what dark secrets could she have that would make us super mad? So, like, I figured it had to do with the parents, because I don't know anything else about our past. But, guess it was Serica. I could hear the sound of the words she made, but I couldn't understand the meaning of the words themselves. But for some reason my hand stopped shaking and it suddenly seemed like everything around me had faded away into a white blur. So this does check out then. Our parents were killed, and it actually was by an assailant. I kept saying we did it, but if Serica did it, could have been indirectly because of our wish? What? The words were stuck in my throat. I couldn't speak.
6年前、渋谷地震の時、あの避難所で、お前の実の両親を殺したのは私なんだ。
But wait. Kurosu was adamant about how we went into the hospital alone. But then we came back out. And we said it was with Serica. She said, no, no way. But I thought we didn't even get involved with Kurosu until after the earthquake because we were in a coma. Something is up with this. Did she know us before the earthquake or what? Maybe we'll find out. I mean, unless we made Serica appear at the earthquake time when we said we wish you disappear. But even then, this is bizarre. Once again, I could hear the words, but I didn't understand them. 6 years ago, Shibuya earthquake, shelter, real parents.
Huh?
My cheeks suddenly felt hot, and my blurry vision came back into focus in the dark room. Only then did I realize what she'd said, but what I felt wasn't rage.
Huh? なんで?
It did say her left hand moved on its own. Was she compelled to make this call? It was an important event from my past, but one I'd totally forgotten. My parents hadn't died in the earthquake, someone had murdered them at the shelter. So this turned out to be true. Unless Sarika's being mind-controlled to tell me. This is weird. I don't know what to make of this. It was what Nono had refused to tell me when I'd just woken up from my coma. Is that her dark secret, then? She knew, but kept it quiet? That might check out. That was why she'd lied to me. And that's why I'd run away from Aoba dorm and gone to live in Miyashiro Park. Oh. We never did figure that out. We knew that we were mad about something, but only now are we coming out. She kept a secret about our parents.
Nande?
I repeated. Why would she do that? Why would she tell me that now? Yeah. This timing is bizarre. All I could hear was her pained breathing. I kept waiting anyway. I couldn't hang up the call. But like, I forgot?
だから、なんでなんだよ。
I yelled at Sarika as she repeated herself. Really?
おい、尾上、尾上!
Suddenly the call ended. She'd hung up. I tried to call back and realized it was impossible. It was an unlisted number.
一体何なんだよ。
I whispered, knowing I wouldn't get an answer. Really, what the hell? What was the point of calling me like that? No, there was a bigger question. Why?
尾上は何のために生まれたんだ?
Huh. That day I happened to meet my parents at the shelter, and then I had a terrible headache. That was probably when Sarika was born, and then my parents were murdered at the shelter, which would mean that she murdered them right after I created her. Are we finally going to have this realization? Because I have not been shutting up about this. I'm sorry if I've been annoying. My thoughts were a mess and it was hard to think, but something told me I had to figure this out. Sarika said her goal was to keep me alive. Which is weird. But would killing my parents help me with that? Mom and Dad were trying to get me out of the shelter. Killing them would make me less likely to survive, not more. Just like Kunosato said, it didn't make sense. That's right. What Sarika was saying didn't make sense. The very first thing she'd done after being born didn't make any sense. Which meant...
あいつの目的は僕を生かし続けることじゃない。
Yeah, but it's weird because that didn't register as a lie. Suddenly I found myself looking at the picture on my phone. It was the photo of me and my family from Aoba dorm. It was the same as what had happened with Nono. Sure, she'd figured out who Sarika was, but if Sarika's goal was keeping me alive, would that mean killing Nono? No. Unless this whole thing is about preventing us from finding the truth, which would keep us alive, but then why get us involved in this new generation madness thing in the first place? Nono would always try her best to protect me. She'd even risk her life to do so, which would mean that for Sarika it would be better to keep her alive. She could have just done what they did with Ito, and used mind control to alter his memories about her real identity. So why didn't she? Why did she have to kill Nono? Did she have some other goal? Was that why she had to take Nono's life? If that was the case, then I could feel a certain desire welling up within me, one I hadn't felt in a long, long time. I would find out why. And I would find out if my ridiculous idea was true. And for that to happen, I have to go there. No matter how things ended up.
本気かよ。僕は。
I checked the time on my phone again. 10:07? 10:10, alright. There were 18 minutes left until the moment when everything began. I laughed a little and ran my hand along Nono's desk again. Was I betraying Nono again? If she was still alive, would she have slapped me across the face as she found out about it?
ごめん。でもお前だってさ。
You lied too, in the end. You lied to protect me. So I'm going to do the same. Because this is about you, and you mean everything to me. This is about the reason why you died. This kind of thing drives me crazy, because I know there are other paths, I know there's a true ending, but if I take different paths, our character will not have had this epiphany, unless they somehow incorporate continuity into the paths. This is gonna drive me crazy.
何も知らなくていいなんて、そんなのごまかしだよ。
Of course, thinking about what I was about to do terrified me. But I wasn't going to change my mind, no matter what. I can't believe she's still here. Surprisingly, it was Arimura, not Nono, who slapped me. She hit me so hard that the impact traveled all the way to my ears and made them ring. Really? Because that was a light sound.
バカ言わないで。何かっこつけてるんですか。何笑ってるんです？
いや、やっぱりそうだよな。
I put my hand to my cheek where she struck me, and it felt a little hot. I'd laughed because it hadn't hurt as hard as when Nono did it. Nono was used to slapping people's cheeks after all. Or maybe she was just really strong? But Arimura seemed to think I was laughing because I wasn't worried at all. Her shoulders shook more violently with rage.
危険すぎます。向こうが何を企んでるのかわからないんですよ。
話を聞きに行くだけだ。多分大丈夫だと思う。
By the way, something just occurred to me. She slapped me so hard my ears rang. Not as hard as Nono slaps. Oh my god.
そんな嘘つかないでください。私に嘘が通じないのは分かってるでしょ。
Arimura was out of breath and seriously angry. She was worried about me.
タクルさん。
Uki and Yuto were standing next to her, looking worried. I leaned down so I was at their height.
安心してくれ。話を聞きに行くだけっていうのは本当だから。
でもその先は嘘だろう。お前は多分殺される。
Yeah, this is the trap. Obviously, Serika wasn't going to bring me, so she was probably compelled to call me and get that out. So she probably had pained breath because she was resisting talking, and that's the lure that's going to get me over there.
久野里さん。
Of course I knew that. There was a good chance I'd be killed, and Dad would be the one who killed me. But I wish he wouldn't say it in front of Uki and Yuto.
お前は喧嘩すらしたことがない。違うか？
はい。でも。
I had to go. My head knew it was stupid and my heart was filled with terror. But there was something even deeper that drove me forward.
クルス先輩はそんなこと絶対に望んでない。
え？
ウキから手紙のこと聞いたんです。
そっか。
クルス先輩の気持ち踏みにじるんですか？
そうだな。あいつきっと怒ると思うけど。
And she'd probably slap me hard across the face like Arimura just did.
でも僕は行くよ。
Arimura looked like she was about to raise her hand again, but then she stopped, clenched it into a fist, and lowered it. Her eyes were a little red as she glared at me.
なんでそんな。
ごめん。
Her voice was so soft I could barely hear it. I lowered my head, unable to even look at her.
ウキとユウトのこと頼むな。
知りません。先輩は長男でしょ。ちゃんと帰ってきて自分でお兄ちゃんをやってください。
You're terrible, she whispered, as she left the room. Someone suddenly waved something in front of my face and I leapt back. It's not a dried squid, is it? Come on. Kazuki had come up next to me. I wasn't sure when. She always surprised me like this.
お前まだいたのか。
I can't leave you all here, her face seemed to say. She was holding a piece of candy on a stick. A lollipop? How many of these did she have? I couldn't refuse her, so I took it and put it in my pocket. I'd probably never eat it, though. Oh my god, this is gonna come back in some way, isn't it?
最後まで付き合わせて悪いな。ウキたちのことを見送ってやってくれ。そうしたら気をつけて帰れよ。
Okay, please forgive me if this doesn't end up panning out, because if it doesn't, this is gonna sound like I'm making such a stupid guess. And when I edit this Let's Play, I'll be hearing myself saying this, and I'll be thinking, oh my god, you were wrong. But is the lollipop going to be the murder weapon as I psychically throw it at Sakuma? Is that going to be the last minute, like, oh my god, I didn't know that was an option thing? Oh, I don't know. I didn't think she'd do it, but I didn't want her going with the two of them. I feel terrible for her family if that happened. She nodded like she always did. I tried to make sure that was a yes, but before I could, she ran out of the room after Arimura. Kunosada was here too, so it would be okay, right? She would make it home, right? Yuto spoke up, afraid, as he saw me watch her go. To be honest, I wasn't sure what to say. Anything I said felt like it would just make him more nervous. I tried to choose my words carefully. Yeah, if we die, we're not telling him about Dad, are we? But in the end, this was all I could come up with.
言ってくれ。後で必ずユウトたちと合流するから。
I could tell from his face that he realized it was one of the white lies that adults often tell children, but he didn't say anything. He just looked at me with eyes that were redder than Arimura's.
いってらっしゃい。待ってますから。
ああ。
ずっと待ってますから。
ああ。
僕も待ってる。ずっと。
Ah.
Maybe Yuki's hand on his gave him strength because he finally forced himself to say one last thing. I'm sorry, Yuto. Thanks, Uki.
じゃあ、言ってくれ。
I checked the time. There wasn't much time left. And if I stayed here any longer, my resolve would begin to waver. I nodded one last time at the two of them, then turned around. It was decided that Shinjo would drive me to the Hikaruo. I wanted him to take the others to Akihabara as soon as possible, but I didn't see how I could get through the area around Shibuya Station on my own.
Miyashiro.
As I left to get in the car, Kunosato called to me from behind.
スマホは持っているな。
I put my hand inside my pocket to check. Of course, it was there.
持ってますけど。
何でもいい。もし委員会の情報を手に入れたら、すぐに連絡しろ。
I chuckled. That was exactly what I expected her to say. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, she's not giving a goodbye. There's no way. And, nope. I didn't know if I'd find anything, but I promised that I would.
尾上からは、お前を渋谷から脱出させるよう言われている。それを承諾したのは、能力者を渋谷から出せば委員会に近づけるという、あいつの言質があったからだ。
That's true.
はい。
かといって、お前自身がそれに逆らう決断をするのなら、それを止める義理はない。別に、お前にこだわる必要はないんだからな。山添や有村さえいれば、それでいい。
Ugh.
ねえ、そうですね。
He's taken that pretty well, but like that just kind of sounds ominous. She was correct. If getting a psychic out of Shibuya would cause something to happen, Uki and Arimura would do just as well as I would.
だから、お前のことは待たないぞ。
Her words seemed to be testing my resolve one last time, so I looked her dead in the eye and answered.
構いません。分かってますから。
But for a while after that, she said nothing. Wow, is this actually going to be some kind of emotion? She seemed to be, for once, at a loss for words. I frowned. Did she not like that answer?
何か。
お前の、さっきの話だがな。
She finally opened her mouth, hesitantly. She was probably talking about the call I'd gotten from Serica, when she told me that she was the one who killed my parents.
それが事実だとするなら。
何ですか？何か思い当たることでも？
いや。
Kunosato probably found Sarika's words strange just like I did. They didn't make sense, and Kunosato probably had a theory of her own and one she was reluctant to share. But in the end, she put her hand on my shoulder without saying a word. Huh? Until now, all she'd ever done was grab me or choke me, so I was surprised. True. I'd never expected this.
どのみち、お前が確かめるべきことだ。せいぜい悔いのないようにするんだな。
And the words she said were different than usual, too. Kunosato was saying something nice to me, a psychic?
なんだ。
いえ、その。
I was so surprised that I said something I shouldn't have.
どうせなら、ケイさんの締めの一言でお願いします。リスナーだったんです。
ふざけるな。情報操作の放送以外で、あんな八方美人な人間を演じるのはごめんだ。とっとと行け。
That is kind of funny. She pushed me away with the hand she placed on my shoulder. I suddenly felt embarrassed. Why had I said that? I was so embarrassed that I tried to hurry into the car. Kunosato looked at me and said,
どうしても聞きたいなら、次の放送まで待つんだな。
I turned around and looked at her face one more time. Her features were elegant, and her beautiful almond-shaped eyes were always frozen cold. They never betrayed what she was really thinking. Her personality was as cool as ice, befitting a dedicated scientist who was always willing to do whatever it took to achieve her goal, regardless of the cost. But sometimes I caught a glimpse of some burning passion inside her. She really was a mysterious girl. Oh, right. There was one last thing I had to ask her, since this might really be my last chance.
なんだ、人の顔をじっと見て。
久野里さんは何の能力を持ってるんですか?
Oh, she used a psychic this whole time?
なんだと。
The distance between us had started to shrink, but it grew back with that one question. I felt all the air around me freeze. I panicked.
だって見たんですよ。久野里さんの部屋で。
Oh yeah, at the very beginning, like on the ceiling or something.
何をだ。
ディソードです。あれは久野里さんのものでしょう。
は
Just as I thought things between us would end with another series of cold insults from her, Kunosato started to laugh. She kept laughing in a low voice as I stood there with my mouth hanging open. All I could do was stand there and watch. I didn't know Kunosato could laugh like that.
お前、本当に真のギガロマニアックスなのか？本物と偽物の区別もつかないとはな。
Yeah, that is, like, if it's on the ceiling, and it's like a model, like, wouldn't the D-sword just be in her hand or something?
偽物?
あれはただのレプリカだ。研究用のな。6年前の資料を取り寄せて、アメリカの私の研究室が作った。
Okay, documents. I was gonna say, how would you know what one looks like? You just have a psychic stand there and explain it to you?
ばらつきがあるにしろ、ディラックの海とのパイプがなぜ剣という形を取るのか、その解明をしようとしたが無駄だった。で、廃棄されたガラクタを押し付けられたわけだ。あんなもの邪魔になって仕方ないが、まあ物干し代わりに使っている。
And then she laughed again. After she was done laughing, she pushed me into the car. And before she closed the door...
ああ、そうだ。お前の同級生、伊藤だったか。あいつはなんとか助かりそうだぞ。忘れてるようだが、それと引き換えに、お前は私の実験台になると誓った。
I did not forget that.
その約束、戻ってきて、ちゃんと果たせよ。
Then she closed the door. I nodded from behind the window and mouthed the words, "Thank you for everything." Everyone really was trying to make me feel better. Everyone really did want to see me again. But now I was going alone down a path that meant that might never happen.
静かだな。
Oof, we're making our trip. This really seems like it's building up to the end, but for now it is time to stop the installment. Well, we certainly made a lot of progress today, didn't we? It looks like it's time for the final showdown, or very close to it. Serica called us and said that she was the one who killed our parents, which may be true, but it also feels that she was compelled to say it. This also explains the rift we had with Kurisu, who said we'd hate her if we found out her dark secret. Maybe she was the one who kept our parents' death a secret? That would make sense. But there's also the matter of Serica's purpose. We still haven't figured it out yet, and I still say the purpose was to make our parents disappear forever. But it also raises the question of why she's been killing the other psychics. She said it was to keep us alive, but how does that tie into what may have been her actual purpose? This is strange. Maybe we'll get our answers? Until next time, everyone.